dementia.
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 Hiding is easier than facing up to it sometimes. But you can only run for so long. Dementia will catch you up. You will have to face it. You will have to live with it.
Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to our latest episode of Aging Whealthily podcast. I am your co-host, Sean, and I'm here today with some very distinguished guests. I have my number one partner, my best partner, my soulmate, Miss Bridget Smith in the set. Say hello to the
Hello, everyone.
Ain't she beautiful, y'all? Look at my wife. And today we have the privilege of having a return of Miss Erica DeFrancesco. And she has brought to us a wonderful guest, and her name is Miss Betsy Mintz. And we are honored to have both of them here today. Hello, Erica. Hello, Betsy.
Hello to you, Sean.
All right, before we get into this podcast, I want to tell you about a woman I know. Now, I speak about this woman often, and her name is Miss Dorothy. And Miss Dorothy, as you know, you've probably heard me talk about her in this podcast, and she's a major reason why we deliver this podcast, why we do this talk, why we do what we do. Because Miss Dorothy was a school teacher. She worked all her life. She worked hard, saved money. She did everything that she was supposed to do. Everything that they told her was the right thing to do. Put money to the side, save your money, take care of this, do this. She was doing everything right. Her students loved her. Some of her students came back to see her again decades after graduating from school, leaving school, being graduated, being on their own. They would come by and see her because she has left such an impact on their lives. Mrs. Dorothy at 78 found herself that she ran out of money. She didn't have money to be able to afford to pay for the care that she desperately needed. After having worked her whole life, helped to transform the lives of the children that she worked with, she was left in a desperate situation. Bridget and I started this podcast because there are many Miss Dorothys out there who are aging, who are outliving their wealth, who have declining health. And we want to make sure that we bring awareness to this and give people some insight and a roadmap into how they can age better, age with intention, age with purpose. We want people to take charge of aging at a younger age so that they can age with intention, with purpose, with joy and vitality, and that they can preserve their functional lifespan as long as possible. Now, the way you do that is with education. That's the first step. You have to know what are the steps that I need to do? What are the foods that I should eat? How should I exercise? How should I sleep in order to be able to preserve that? And that's the purpose of this podcast. That's the purpose of why we do what we do, because we want to help people age wealthily. Now, before I bring our guests on and talk to them, I want to tell you something else about the show. Now, we use a word here that you won't find in any dictionary. people have actually come to me thinking that we misspelled, that this was a misspelling, right? And the word is Whealthily. And yes, before you ask the question, yes, we made it up. You know why we made it up? Because no word exists for what we're talking about. There's no one word that describes it. So we had to create one. See, most people treat wealth and health like they're two completely separate things, two separate conversations, that they're two opposite sides of a coin. They're two opposing ideals, but they're not. This is what society makes us believe. So you talk to your financial advisor about one, then you go to your doctor to talk about the other one. And never the two shall meet. But that's the problem. Because you cannot be truly wealthy if you're too sick to enjoy it. And you cannot fully embrace your health if the financial stress is eating you alive. To live wealthily means investing in your body and your bank account. And we're going to learn about some of those things today. It's about building purpose alongside your plans. Aging, not with fear, but with intention, with strength, and with joy. See, we're not anti-aging. We are pro-living. Now, Betsy, your story is about what it means to live wealthily. And I'm happy that you're here today to share it with us.
Thank you, Sean.
So, where would we like to begin today?
I think I love when you described what aging wealthily means, because there's so much synergy between what you're trying to do and I feel like what LiveWell is trying to do. I think we're trying to change societal beliefs. We're trying to change a narrative. And when I think about why I love working at LiveWell, it's because we too are trying to change the narrative surrounding cognitive health and brain health. And also to try to change the narrative surrounding dementia. At LiveWell, we have something that's called a dementia positive philosophy. And people often laugh when they hear the words dementia positive. They're like, how can you use the word dementia and positive in the same sentence? And what dementia positive means is that we treat people who are living with dementia as equal players. And we want people who are living with dementia at every table. It is so important not to infantilize people who are living with dementia, but to recognize the tremendous strengths that people with dementia have. And so I love it. I think we're both in the same business of trying to change public perceptions and trying to change the narrative.
I think that's great. And I will say this, that and I think I could. I know we could speak. I can speak for Bridget because we talked about it. We're happy to be able to share any space when it comes to this care with you. And I said it offset, and I will continue to say it, and I will say it to anybody who ever mentions your name in our presence. You are one of the people who there's no question ever in my mind that is dedicated to what you do and is in the lane and in the space that God created for them. And anytime my phone rings for you to be involved in anything you have, I will try to pick it up before the first ring ever finishes.
That is so kind. We were meant to meet each other. Absolutely.
And as a matter of fact, you're the first person since we've done this podcast that we've had on for a second time. This is your second soiree. And before we even go any further, I think we when you were here last time and we were closing out the episode, I made a verbal slip, and this is a perfect opportunity for me to correct it. And you corrected me off screen. I said, "No, Erica, if you ever hear me say anything like that, correct me on the spot, because I want to make sure that I'm representing what we all believe in, the purpose we all serve." And I want to make sure that I'm representing it correctly. And I said on that segment that I used the term suffering with dementia. And you said, no, people are living with cognitive change. They're not suffering with dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to definitely apologize publicly and make sure that people understand that when I say that, when I speak it, I speak of people who are living with cognitive change. And I want to make sure that my description or my depiction of what we are struggling with, right? And we're struggling with the perception, what we're fighting against, and what we're doing are all pictured and depicted correctly.
I love that. That was actually one of the best conversations I ever have. I feel like you taught me something. I held back, and I didn't want to say something to you until after we were on the air. And you're like, you should have said something to me in the moment. And it was just a great lesson. And I think I just want to clarify too, if something that's really important is I don't want to minimize or suggest that there's not pain or sorrow or sadness. I mean, I am in no way, shape, or form trying to say that people don't have their own experiences, and but that there is also this other side to dementia, which is about joy and thriving and flourishing. And I've known several people who've said, that I'm not suffering, I'm living well, and I'm thriving with dementia. So to make sure that story about suffering, it may be somebody's story, but it's not the only story that exists. Absolutely. And so how do you help people to understand? I think that's the typical, this is why I go back to reframing the narrative. That's the typical narrative. When you hear dementia, people think of loss, dependence, fear, suffering. And I guess I'd love to ask you, Betsy, like, what are some of the first words, as a person who's living with dementia, what are some of the first words that you think of?
So for me, when I first heard it, I was terrified. I did go right to that space because growing up, my mom worked in a nursing home and they had a closed ward for dementia patients that was locked. And so that was my immediate thought was that's where I'm going to be. And so I was very worried and very nervous. And then I met you, and I have to agree with Sean. If anybody's on the right path in their life, it is 100% you, because you changed my perception of my own future and my own life in such a profound way that I wouldn't look at it and be the same person I am now that I could have been when I started this journey 2 years ago. It definitely shaped my idea of, no, I can still have purpose. I can still live a full life. I can still be a great parent to my kids and participate in their lives. And it didn't mean that my life is over. And that's immediately where I went to was, that's it. I'm not going to be able to do anything else. And in reality, I think I've done so much more because of your way of changing my perception of it. So,
That's very powerful.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. You see your impact?
All the hope.
I do get I do get to go home, and at the end of the day, I do say, I made a difference today. I feel it. But you know what? I think the other thing I want to point out, though, is I also go home and I say, you know what? I said, you don't realize the amount of people today with whom I was with that made a difference in my life, and so there's so much reciprocity in my job when I think of, yes, I feel like I've given something to you, but I can't believe how much I have received from knowing you and learned from knowing you. So I get so much. I give, but I get back.
Absolutely. And I've been in the programs for the last couple of years, but since I've come on as an employee for LiveWell and doing the classes and facilitating myself, and just the impact that we have every day with our fellows, as I like to call them, that we have in our classes, it's such a unique like give and take, and we give as much as we get from everyone that we interact with there. And it has been I feel the same way. I go home and I'm like, do you know what this person gave to me today, and like how they helped change my life, and like watching them in my exercise class. And I always tell them, we have one exercise that I love, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys only get to look at me, but I get to watch all of you do this exercise, and I love it. And seeing their faces and their smiles and my smile, and like we have that connection together, and there's just something so beautiful about it. And it's just been truly an amazing experience. Yeah.
So Betsy, we kind of got into this, and this conversation just took its own turn. But I want you to share your experience,
Okay.
because they, though we know the background, right? Your background story. Would you share it so that the audience can get a feel for you and to get understand your experiences?
Okay. So I wrote this for our Speakers Bureau.
You
I was
got
like,
it.
help me with this. I don't know what I was about to say. For our Speakers Bureau. And it was a very eye-opening experience for me. I think it was the first time I truly looked at my cognitive change and saw myself for a long time. And so it was really touching to write this. But it says, I was too young to forget my own life, or so I thought. When I was told that I have cognitive changes or dementia, the word dementia echoed louder than anything else in the room, heavy with fear and misunderstanding. In that moment, my future felt suddenly fragile, as if time itself had turned against me. This is my story of what it means to keep living, hoping, and remembering, even when my memory no longer plays by the rules. I grew up in the blue collar Midwest. I grew up in Ohio during the mid 1980s and 1990s, a time we were always outside, always working on our tractors, our vehicles, doing something, and thankfully raised before technology took over. um, Not that I don't love the podcast, I love it. But from a young age, I spent most of my days, outside working on stuff, learning how to fix things around my house. I'd like to believe it was the best way to grow up. It's really served me well in my life. And even though I sensed I was different from my friends even back then, a lot of them couldn't remember day-to-day conversations or things that we had done in school, whereas I could remember everything. I could remember the way it smelled, way it looked, maybe what someone was wearing, sounds we heard, like everything. Even as a kid, we would go to Florida. Many years later, as an adult, I could remember how to get around to different restaurants that were down there and the names of the restaurants and places we were going. It was pretty remarkable. Um, my friends didn't always take as much pride and love into the amount of remembering I could do when I could call them out on some of their stuff that they would get into. I always prided myself on it, but they did not. And as I stepped into adulthood, I joined the Air Force on my 18th birthday, and I scored high enough on my ASVAB that I went in open general. I could pick any job I want. And so 19 days after I graduated from high school, I left for boot camp. I did 10 grueling hot weeks down in South Texas. And then that led me into 6 years of traveling the world as an aircraft maintenance mechanic. I was strong, I was capable, I was driven. I had a plan and I was living it. Along the way, during that transition in my life of going into the military, I started to notice I had a ringing in my ears. Working on aircraft, I went and saw the physician, and they said, it's nothing to worry about. Don't worry about it. You're young. It'll be fine. Military doctors then did some testing, and they said, don't worry about it. You're fine. Later on in my mid-20s, I started having moments of forgetfulness and small lapses where my memory just would not engage for me. I couldn't remember people's names, couldn't remember the names of things that I had been working on for many years. But I figured, you know what? It was easy to excuse. I was in stressful situations, no big deal. Like so many of us, I found a way and I just pushed forward. I kept moving. But the fog began to thicken. Finding words started to become harder. Thinking felt much heavier. It was much harder. I was given labels and medications and explanations for things that didn't always fit. By the time I was 30, I had a whole team of specialists and still no answers. I remember thinking to myself, this doesn't make sense. I'm not old enough for this. Shortly after turning 30, my children were born. And with them came love and purpose. And at least for me, a really great excuse as to why I was forgetting things. Mom brain is hard, right? Being a parent is hard. Forgetting things is normal with that. Parenting's exhausting. And so I normalized what I was experiencing because I didn't know how to name it. But then in 2020, I began to see a new neurologist, and he began treating me for my migraines. And at the beginning of each of his visits, he ran a cognitive test on everybody who came in. And little did I know, I was failing mine every single time. He eventually diagnosed me with mild cognitive impairment, but he never told me. So without the diagnosis, I didn't do anything to help mitigate that and to help slow down any of the process. And during that time, I also continued to blame myself for my lacking memory. So I started to work harder to hide the fact that I was forgetting things. I tried to remember better. I carried a quiet shame for something that was never my fault. As I approached my 40th birthday, the contrast between my life and my friends' lives was once again impossible to ignore. While my friends were planning celebratory trips for this milestone, I felt increasingly disconnected. And then, unmistakably, I felt lost, literally. I began getting lost driving the 2.1 miles from my house to our local Target. I would end up towns away, not just somewhere else in town, towns away, and have no idea where I was. It's a route that I've been driving for years. I had no good reason why I was not remembering. So that moment became a big turning point for me. I was referred out from my neurologist to a memory care neurologist. More testing followed. The results showed what I felt but couldn't articulate. While some parts of my cognition have remained incredibly strong, others have changed, and suddenly fear rushed in. My understanding of cognitive change has come from closed, quiet places that felt helpless and heavy. I was terrified, not just for myself, but for my young family. I had 2 young children and a spouse who need me. And in that moment of fear, I made a phone call I'll never forget. I called my boss and I said, I need to quit my job because my life is over. She assured me that it wasn't, and thankfully she understood. And so she reminded me my life is not over. She told me to take a couple of deep breaths, and then she told me to call LiveWell. And that is a call that changed the direction of my life. I was awarded a scholarship, and then I began my first classes in the fall of 2024. And what I found there was something that I hadn't encountered in many years, was dignity, compassion, and possibility. I was not treated as a diagnosis. I've never been treated as a diagnosis, but I was seen as a whole person, a capable person, and a valuable person. For the first time, I realized that cognitive change didn't mean the end of purpose. It was just the beginning of a new one. And so at LiveWell, I have found people who understand, people who help me believe in living fully and not quietly fading away. I found my community. I've also found my voice, and I found hope, not just for myself, but for anybody walking this path. I didn't lose my future. I thought for sure I was going to not have a future, but I didn't lose my future. In fact, I've discovered a new way to live it. And today I will speak to you guys as not somebody who's defined by my cognitive change, but who's empowered by it, and also strengthened by it.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, how old were you when you received the official diagnosis?
It was the week before my 40th birthday. So I'm coming up here in a couple weeks on 42.
All right. Well, happy
Good.
birthday.
Thank you.
Good to speak by then.
Thank you.
Now, when you started experiencing the symptoms, how old were you?
I was early to mid 30s.
That had to be very frightening.
Yes, very frightening. Thankfully, I had not had any of the driving components that I did as I came up upon my late 30s. But I did start to notice I wouldn't know where I had put things. And it was the same place I have always put things. I have ADHD and a little OCD, so I like things to be right where they're supposed to be. And it would be where it's supposed to be, but my mind couldn't remember where that really was. So it was a tough time.
And then you described being as a child having, almost a photographic memory.
Kind of, yes. I could remember everything, and it would really aggravate people. But I really prided myself on being able to recall things. I could just close my eyes and I could replay the whole thing. And I slowly started to lose that. And I felt like in those moments, I was actually losing myself, not just the memories.
Now, once you describe when you received the diagnosis, you really believed it. You felt like your life was over. I think society is a society, Erica, and you probably know about this. We have done so much to build that certain stigma, right? And we think about, when I think about it, I think about what it must be like to start experiencing this at such a young age. You don't think of someone so young being diagnosed with dementia. People think of it all the time as something that happens later, much later on in life. But the reality is that there's no age.
Yep. There is no age. There is no specific, oh, well, you've reached this age, so now it is a possibility. It can happen anytime, honestly. It depends on the health of your brain. Unfortunately, mine is from traumatic brain injuries. So because I have that in my history, people who maybe experience concussions a lot, are at higher risk. Um, and it's something that as a society, I think we need to be aware of, and we also need to be keeping our athletes aware of. I do coach softball, and it's a big thing for me to make sure that my girls know about their brain health and to understand what is the best practice as far as protecting your brain when you're out there. Maybe you're sliding into a base, don't slide head first. I won't let my girls slide head first. That to me, that's dangerous. And even like sliding, making sure that when you go down, you land a certain way so you don't, slam your head. And there's a lot of components that go into it, but it's definitely, I think that we're on the right path as far as teaching the next generation. And hopefully we won't have the same concussion problems that a lot of people have. I do coach softball, yes. I did play, yes. I begrudgingly was a pitcher. I was really good at it, but I hated doing it. I love outfield. So I have a very strong arm. I could throw from either right or left field and either to third or first or all the way to home. Like throw the whole, yeah, like launch it. And so that was where I liked to play. I loved running after the ball, catching the ball, and throwing it in. Right. I loved being able to stop people from getting to the next base and doing all of those things. Like that was where I shined. But they always wanted me to be a pitcher. They're like, "You're so fast. You got this." I had the arm, I had the accuracy, I had the speed, but I don't know. I loved being in the outfield. Yeah.
You highlight something that's so interesting because I've heard, and I don't know what your thoughts are around this, but there's a lot of my friends who have dementia that struggle when somebody says to them, "Well, you don't look like you have dementia," and I feel like that's something that a lot of people probably say to you because you are so young, and to your point, you don't think of people in their 20s or 30s or 40s having dementia. It's typically like, again, a quote old person's unquote disease is how it's thought of. And so but I guess I would ask you, like, when people say to you, you don't look like you have dementia, what comes to mind for you as a reaction to that?
So amazingly, I don't always get the "you don't look like you have dementia." I usually hear, "Well, you don't seem like you're struggling." And why is it that someone has to be struggling and have dementia? Like that's my but most people, you're right, don't think that when they see me. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so young. You're so young." And that's true. And I do get that. But I do also pretend a lot, and I try to hide it a lot. And I spend a good amount of effort trying to make sure that it seems like I have it all together, because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Being a parent and being a coach and, being young and, all of these things, like you have to have it together. And there are a lot of times that I don't have it all together.
But the beauty of it is you have LiveWell. And LiveWell is a place where you're not expected to have it all together. And what does having it all together look like?
Right. Right.
Just like what, just like,
Good question.
and just like what does struggle look like?
Yes.
You don't look like you're struggling. Well, can you describe struggle?
Right.
Matter of fact, here's a pen. Can you draw me a picture?
Struggle. Yeah. Yeah.
What does it look like?
Yeah, I love that you said that because I do think so many people who are living with dementia, they are trying to mask their symptoms. They are putting up a pretense for a lot of different reasons. One is the stigma that they're concerned that they're going to experience from the public, that they don't want, this is again what I hear, they don't want to be treated any less than, they don't want to be treated differently. They don't want to feel diminished in any way. But just yesterday, someone was saying to me, the reason that I love coming to LiveWell is because I can walk through those doors, and as soon as I walk through those doors, I can let my guard down and be who I am without having to pretend to be somebody that I'm not, where I feel like sometimes outside of LiveWell, to your point, I do feel like I have to put up that pretense, but it is, people have described it as sort of like liberating and an incredibly safe space where people feel completely accepted and being able to be their authentic selves.
Yes. Yeah. And and the question comes to mind, does that feeling, or does this narrative that we have, or that people have about dementia, the stigma, does it come from a lack of awareness for people who are not familiar with dementia? Or is it, what does it come from somewhere else?
Actually, I mean, I'd love, do you have some thoughts about that?
I feel like it might be like you were just saying, a societal norm is that's just, what people are taught. And unfortunately, when you're a child and you have a grandparent or someone older in the family who has that, they're like, "Oh, that's just, Uncle so and so, he's got problems. Don't worry about it." And they kind of like shoo the children away from it. Whereas I have brought my children fully on board with it. I discuss with them what's going on. We talk all of the time. They're always live well with me. Like we're always doing intergenerational things. And it has been, honestly, I would say that being diagnosed with dementia has made me a better parent. I'm more aware of the memories that I'm making for them, not for myself. A lot of times as parents, we're like, "Oh, we want to do this because we're kind of like feeding that our own ego type idea." But in reality, now I'm just like, what memory can I make with you today that you're going to carry with you through your life? And so it's really changed my aspect of parenting. And I think if we had more integration of like elementary and even preschool aged kids with, people like at LiveWell, and we had more of those integration moments where we did things together, that it could really change the whole narrative as that generation gets older as well.
I think the misconceptions come from so many different places. The misconceptions come from the media. I think I was with somebody yesterday, and she said she read an article that actually described dementia as being a disease that sucks the life out of somebody. And again, a large group of people are reading this article and are now using that same language when they're talking about dementia. So, and when I talk about the media, it's newspapers, movies, it's the news, it's growing up, and it's what If I have a grandmother who had severe dementia and that's my only reference, then that's all I know. So I think that is part of the reason that, you know, Betsy is one of 17 people that we have who have lived experience, who are a part of a speakers bureau, because we want to be out there in the public, shifting that narrative and reducing stigma and sharing stories with whoever has a space and whoever will offer, again, a group of people who will listen to our stories, because we want to be flipping that script.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's amazing. Part of what we're doing here and what we talked about, even prior to starting our podcast, but now with Aging Wealthily, so much is about making that connection between the younger generation and the aging population and all the things that come with it, so that there can be a better understanding. Because there's so much to be gained from a younger person having interaction and benefiting from the experience and wisdom of an aging person, an older person. And there's so much to be gained by the older person who learning from the younger person and having that interaction. It's too much of it is missed nowadays in
Yeah,
society.
and I'd love to. There's an example I could give, and I really struggle with schools who do this. Oftentimes, schools do different things to celebrate the 100th day of school, and one of the things that schools sometimes do to celebrate the 100th day of school is they will ask. Oftentimes, elementary schools do this. They will ask the young kids to come in dressed as a 100-year-old, and often what happens, this happens like all across the nation. I mean, it's a very common tradition in many schools, and so you'll have people who are coming in, but I feel like what they're highlighting when they come in is the loss surrounding aging. You know, they might come in with a walker or a cane. They come in hunched over. It's there. I think what they're highlighting is the debilitation and the loss, and not the gifts that come with aging, and not the strength. So there are a lot of schools and people who have kind of pushed back, and they're now saying, you know, what can we do differently on the 100th day of school? Let's bring in a centenarian, somebody who's aging wealthily. You know, let's bring in a few folks that are 100 who can talk about the life that they're living and give advice to the youth about the lessons that they've learned. And that's just a much better way to educate youth. But again, you go back to, sometimes this is what schools are teaching kids, you know, is how you choose to celebrate the 100th day of school is really going to shape how kids view aging.
Absolutely. And if there's no one there to correct them, to say that no, aging isn't about decline. You just what you're showing is everyone whose age is not declined, not to that degree. And everybody doesn't need to walk. And there's, even with when we were talking about dementia earlier, there are things you can do to reduce the chances of you contracting or having dementia. Uh, you just spoke about it, where you're talking about coaching the softball and not avoiding concussions. But there's a whole list of things that you can do that will reduce the chances that you will have dementia.
Absolutely.
Just like there's things you can do throughout your life that can increase your functional lifespan, right? That you don't have to decline so rapidly. Aging is not about decline. It doesn't have to be about decline. It's about living. It's about living with intention, to living with purpose, even when you have, regardless to what life throws at you.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that I can't be a person who has dementia and still live with intention and live with purpose. It just means that now my everyday with my child, as you described, has much more purpose and is more intentional. Who's getting if you look at that, then you ask yourself, who's getting the best value out of their life at that moment? Your life, you're experiencing the joys of life. You're getting more value out of your day than most of us who are not doing what you're doing.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I've actually heard it's so interesting, because the way in which you talk about dementia It's as if it's a gift that you have been given.
It is.
And I've actually heard other people describe that as well. And I think it's hard for people to hear that. They're like, you're calling dementia a gift. You're saying that dementia has, and in your story, you talked about how dementia has strengthened you. It has also strengthened your children and the way you are raising your children to be better stewards of their own brains. You know, and so and I love that you brought up the whole realm of prevention, because you know we do have a huge emphasis at LiveWell on brain health at every age and every stage. That it is never too early, to Betsy's point, to protect your brain. The things you do from a very early age. Again, wearing helmets. Yes, when you're riding a bicycle, you know, these things that you can do from very early on can help you to reduce your risk of developing dementia later on. And we talk about risk reduction as it relates to developing dementia if you don't already have a diagnosis, but we also love to talk about risk reduction when people have a diagnosis of dementia, that changing those, oftentimes if a person goes to a neurologist, we get a lot of neurologist reports, health and physicals, and we see what the neurologists are recommending for people who are living with cognitive change. And it's usually, you know, eat a Mediterranean diet or a mind diet, make sure you're exercising, get cognitive stimulation, and get social stimulation. So and that if you do this with a diagnosis of dementia, you can delay further cognitive decline. So you know, I think that is something that's beautiful. I think the conversation is changing, because when I first started in this field about 25 years ago, I would ask most people, you know, if you could find out if you were going to have a diagnosis of dementia, would you want to know? And more often than not, the answer was no, I don't want to know. And I think it's because there's nothing I feel like I can do, would be the most response. But that answer is changing now, because people are like, I want to know as early as possible, because there are things that I can do. You know, so it's more empowering. People are feeling like they have more agency and more control over their own health. So they're not shying away from the diagnosis. They're like, yeah, I want to know, and I want to start to do whatever I can do to delay further cognitive decline. So, yeah.
There's more science.
Yes. Yes.
More valid resources. More valid information. I remember just a few years ago, you didn't know anything about sleep patterns and how that affects you. You know, there are so many different things. We talk about the hearing loss. We talk about the sight, being able to see and getting your vision checked and getting the glasses. Concussions. You think about it. There's so much information available now. When I go and I read and I look and I'm like, wow, there's so many things that they're uncovering that I had no idea of. Even the social isolation. I actually did a talk of last week, I believe it was. I did a short video about a social isolation, and they compared the effects of social isolation to the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
That's the impact of social isolation. So, and I think about how many people, I fought against just saying seniors, because it's not just seniors. There are so many people in our society right now that are walking around, and they're outside, and they could be in a room full of people, but they're still isolated.
Yeah.
That impact, 15 cigarettes a day, if you really think about that, that is powerful. And also that plays a part on being able, the likelihood or the possibility of contracting dementia.
100%, 100%.
And how difficult is it to pick up the phone and call someone and say, hey, how you doing today?
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody's got a cell phone in their hand all the time. Well, use it to take a few minutes to call somebody, you know, and say, hey, how you doing today?
I love this saying, knowledge is power. And that's why I love that you have this podcast, because you are arming people with knowledge so that people could make informed choices. And I think that's what we want people to do, that the more you know, the better you'll be able to make choices that are in alignment with your own values. You know, you can still choose not to do the thing that's good for you, but you're making a conscious choice, you know, and you have agency to be able to make that choice because you have knowledge, you know. And I think that, so I really applaud both of you for having this podcast and, you know, really educating people about all of the things that they can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's about changing narratives.
Yeah. I also wanted to share that LiveWell has a brain health and dementia prevention clinic, and it is something that LiveWell does in partnership with Yale University and a researcher there who founded the Yale Center on Aging. Her name is Mia Kivel-Pelto. She's a neuroscientist, and if you look up, there are two sort of groundbreaking studies, but one is hers, and it's called the Finger Studies, FINGER, and there are, I think, over 80 countries worldwide who are implementing her research, which is all about modifiable risk factors. Wow. And in the United States, we are the only organization, LiveWell, who is implementing sort of an implementation clinic and programs that are based on the finger study. Yeah.
She's remarkable. She really is.
Remarkable.
My daughter is going to be 10 this summer, and she loves Dr. Kiva Pelto and was so excited to meet her and get a picture with her and everything. And she's actually working on a research paper about her in 4th grade.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah.
She might be the next neurologist.
That's what she wants to do. She wants to follow her career path, and then she wants to take over when Dr. Kiva Pelto is ready to retire. She's like, I'm going to take over and I'm going to work at LiveWell. So
Wow.
Mia Kivel-Pelto was also one of the authors in a United States study that came out, which is based on the finger study, and it's called the U.S. Pointer Study. That was put out by the Alzheimer's Association. So when you look at two major groundbreaking studies on brain health and dementia prevention, the studies to look up are the finger studies and the pointer studies. Yeah.
Right. I will check those out. You know, it's amazing. I just listened to you talk about your daughter and how we were just talking about how you said that this experience, right, it's been sort of, I guess, sort of a blessing.
it really has.
And when you just gave that story about your daughter, you can see the blessing there, because how it's shaping her future now.
Yes.
Not just transform your relationship with her, but that transformation now has spawned her passion, and now she has direction at fourth grade, nonetheless. That is amazing. She didn't say I wanted to be a nurse. She didn't say I want to be an astronaut. She said, no, I want to do this. I'm going to take over for her, and I'm going to work here.
The amazing thing is that she told me before she had met Dr. Kiva Pelto that she wanted to be a brain surgeon. That was her original career path in 2nd grade, all the way up until this year, was she wanted to be a brain surgeon. And then she realized that she could do the brain research. And she was like, whoa. And that changed. As soon as she realized what Dr. Kiva Pelto's path was, she was like, 100% want to do that. Yeah.
Hearing that. I love hearing that. That is beautiful, especially when seeing that passion in someone so young.
Yeah. We think that your daughter Lily is going to be our youngest speaker on the Speakers Bureau. And something that we're wanting to start in the near future is called a youth ambassador program, sort of what is the education that youth can be providing to their friends? How can they be champions at a young age, getting their friends excited about brain health? And so we're really wanting to establish a youth ambassador program, and she will be, both of your kids
definitely be there for
yes,
sure. Yeah.
will be inducted as a youth ambassador, our first two.
I would say they love telling all the kids on our street, "Where's your helmet? Go get this." They were out riding their scooters the other day when it was warm, and they were like, "No, you guys can't ride till you go get your helmets." And like they made them go back to their houses and get helmets and put them on. Or we have extras at our house, so they'll be like, "Just grab one of ours." And but they make sure that all of the we've got a lot of kids on our street are protecting their brains.
That is excellent. See, that is a movement.
It is a movement.
Absolutely.
And I would say that's actually something that we are trying to create is a global movement around the promotion of cognitive health and the around a dementia positive philosophy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually read where there was a movement, or there was actually a group that was a movement to train police officers and first responders on dementia, so that when they come in and they're responding, they can be more sensitive to what somebody else is maybe going through, experiencing. So many times they come in with their training, and the training is limited. They don't know you don't know anything about this, so you don't know what to expect. And they may present as something else. If somebody has dementia and they're in a state of agitation, that may present as something else. If you're not aware of what dementia is, and that this is something that can a part of it, right? That can be a part of it. The person can become agitated. You don't know. And if you're trained to, as an officer, to, in a certain way, or, sometimes we don't always act in according with our training either. That's a situation that can actually escalate very quickly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So LiveWell does a lot of partnering with all different kinds of local businesses. So most recently, Betsy and another speaker, Chris, went out and trained about 20 to 30 local police officers. You were a part of that training, and part of that was, again, look at me, I'm 40 years old and I'm here living with dementia. And so again, just flipping and changing that narrative, we want to go out and be in banks. That what happens when, somebody is taking out an exorbitant amount of money, maybe because they're being scammed, or a lot of times as an older adult, or as a person who's living with dementia, you are a more vulnerable population. And sometimes one of the first signs is that I'm making poor choices around my finances. And, a bank might be the first point of contact to notice that something is a little off with this transaction that a person is making, so in a library, a person who's constantly forgetting to return a book, so how can you educate sort of public spaces and places and different businesses who might be the first point of contact for a consumer who has dementia. So there, like I said, there is no audience that we don't want to be in front of to try to help you to reduce the stigma surrounding dementia and heighten awareness about how you can help people that you serve who have dementia.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you don't think about the bank. I never thought about the bank issue.
Oh, yeah.
You don't pay attention. Sometimes you just didn't think about it. That could actually be a real serious situation. Could be problematic. And it would be good to know that, okay, especially someone who's like, if they're going to the bank often, the tellers at the bank get to know you. The people at the bank get to know you. And they may be someone who can spot some change. And then who do they know who to notify? Who can they call to say, I just noticed something off about Miss Joan. She's not herself. She hasn't been herself for a while now. Who do they call? Who do they notify?
So we'd love to be out in another space. I feel like you're talking about, which I love, like how do you get at people who develop relationships with people in the community who might notice things? Another sort of space I feel like we love to be in is any kind of faith-based community, where every Sunday, you for many years, you see Mrs. Jones or going out, but you're noticing something different. Church is often like family to people. So, your church peers, your church family is going to notice when something is off or somebody isn't coming when they come every Sunday. And so who would they contact, and how as a parishioner, can I support people in my community who have dementia? So that's another space we really want to be in, is pretty much every church. You've got a church you want us to speak in, we're there. We're there.
As I'm thinking about this movement and how we get this information out, we have the podcast, we put out the information on the internet. Everyone may not see it, but how do we get more awareness? And actually, we just came across two places. We educate as many people as we possibly can in whatever way we can reach them. If it's through video, well, we've got a podcast. We got cameras recording all around us right now. We can make videos, we can record, we can send them to the channel, say, hey, we have lessons here, we have information here we would like you to take a look at. If you want us to come in and do an in-service for you and your team, we can actually come in and do an in-service for your team. Just the church organizations, I never even, that they're like families and that they're very close. And they tend to have a lot of seniors. A lot of aging population who there. That's probably the most of the people who are there in church nowadays are the aging populations that are going to go and change. And they would be some of the first people that would recognize it.
So we actually did, I think it was last year, for the one of the church conferences for congregational churches in Connecticut. We did an educational seminar for many pastors on how to create a dementia positive church. Because again, like LiveWell, where people feel like they can come to LiveWell and not have to pretend and not have to withdraw, how does a church become a space where, if I have dementia, I can continue to come and not feel judged and not feel shame. I might be a little bit disinhibited. So how can a church sort of support and be a dementia friendly space or a dementia positive space? So we do some training around that as well.
Right. Right. I actually met a pastor some time ago who had church services for people who had developmental disabilities.
I love that. I love that. How do, I think we're talking about any space, how does any space become inclusive? And I feel like whether it's to, I love that, whether it's to people with developmental disabilities, individuals with autism, individuals with dementia, how do you become a space, again, where, again, you can walk in without feeling like you have a scarlet letter on you? Yes. Yeah. Because it's not uncommon for people who are living with dementia to withdraw, again, because they are concerned about how they will be treated by the public. So, people are less likely to share with their, maybe less so with their church because they're connected, but with other people. So how we really want to go and, again, tell the world that you don't need to treat people with dementia differently. Like, treat them like you would want to be treated yourself.
Yes, exactly. And you probably can speak to this, but I've worked with some people who have been some of the most bright and brilliant people that you could talk to. And when contracting dementia and going through the process of it and living through the cognitive changes, there was often times when they did feel ashamed.
Oh, yes.
And even though you're trained a professional, you're not there in judgment of them, but there are other people, and I can see how they can isolate at that time, where they feel like they're ashamed. There is a decline, and I think about a client I once worked with, and I worked with him for several years, and he was a superintendent of schools, and he was a brilliant man. And I would talk to him about all types of subjects, but he used to love to talk classical music. And we would sit down and talk classical music, and one day he gave me a whole history of Mozart. Brilliant man. And as he was living with the changes, and he, was going through different processes, he would, often say things, and that would reflect just him, living with internally with shame about what he was experiencing. And I can, well, I guess I can somewhat understand how he felt, though there's not a reason to that, though he doesn't have to feel that way, or shouldn't have to feel that way, because he's not to blame. Whatever he's going through, whatever that person is experiencing, they're not to blame. Were it not for that, he'd still be the same brilliant person. He'd probably be teaching me a history of some other classical music person. He might be talking Beethoven today. But as a society, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, we have to do a better job of helping people to understand what it is in truth to destroy the stigma. And there, we talk about this is just one, but in society we have a million stigmas that we live with, and we got to deal with it. It's not about decline. Aging is not about decline. It's not about decline. It's about living. Let's talk about living. Let's talk about purpose. Let's talk about what you talked about just every day. Those moments, those memories, that legacy. That's what it's about.
Amen. Amen.
Don't make me start preaching.
I was like, preach, Sean, preach.
No, I'm very passionate about that. Absolutely. I'm very passionate about that because we started a podcast because we want to be able to rewrite. And that's the beauty of it. Right now, technology has given us a gift. The ability to come in here and be able to do a podcast and put it on there, and millions of people can view it. Billions of people if they choose to. Right? When before there would have been, to try to pull something like this together, where it would have took a mountain of money, and forget about the money. Even if you had the money, you would have to have a bunch of connections. Now we can do it. We are able to take control of the narrative. We're able to give the truth and place it in a place where anybody who wants it can easily find it. This is a gift. So with this gift, what are we going to do? Well, we can get up here and, make a bunch of videos about dancing cats, right? Right. I see a bunch of them, right? Dancing and singing cats, right? Which is doing nothing for anyone. Or we can use this gift, this voice, these arrows, and pull them back and start destroying the myths, destroying the lies. Because overall, as a society, we've been lied to.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We have been lied to. The reality is that people, they don't talk about it being about, not being about decline, but living with purpose and intention, because purpose and intention doesn't make them money.
Right. Exactly.
Fear does.
Yes.
The stigma does. That's where it comes in at. Now, when we come out and start living with intention and purpose, now that changes everything. Well, let's make them mad.
Let's make them mad. That is well said. It's interesting because I feel like you said some of the most brilliant people I know are living with dementia, and I think part of it is what I hear many people say is, don't diminish me, or don't define me by my diagnosis. Don't define me that I am an engineer. I am a professor. That it is about sort of identity, and I have so much to offer, and dementia doesn't take away what I can still offer and contribute. And so I feel like oftentimes, sometimes people come to LiveWell, and sometimes it's because of the stigma from the public that they start to have limiting beliefs of their own selves, you know, because and LiveWell really tries to challenge people's limiting beliefs to say, you know, you things may be a little bit different, or things may look a little different, but you know, look at the tremendous strengths that you have in these areas, and at LiveWell, how can we leverage those strengths? We want to partner with you. So many of the classes that we offer, and this is how sort of you eventually became employed, we're like, you have such great gifts and such great strengths. Will you help me? Will you co-facilitate a class with me? Right. That because you can teach this class. And so we invited Betsy to teach some classes, and then one day I was like, oh my goodness, you are amazing. Like what a gift you are to our organization. So I sent a text and I said, you know, would you ever, can we consider hiring Betsy, because she is a gift to our organization. So, you know, people say, Erica, it's very hard to say no to you. And I think that's a good thing, because I ask people for a lot of things, but I'm also a strengths finder. Even when people can't find strengths in themselves, I think that's something that LiveWell is really good at. We're like, you know, you may feel all this loss, or people may be talking or emphasizing all that you have lost, but let's talk about what still exists, and you know, all that you have, and how you can continue to contribute at LiveWell and outside of LiveWell.
Absolutely. And to go back on something you just said, is that nobody at LiveWell is going to treat someone who is experiencing dementia as if they are dementia. It's something you're experiencing. It's not who you are. It's just another thing that you are experiencing in your life, but who you are always stays who you are. So I may not still be able to remember and recall all of the things that I did when I was a child, but if I write them down and I have them in my notes, then I can't go wrong, you know? And so the tools that I have to use have changed in order to make my days, you know, quote unquote successful, but I'm still me. You know what I mean? I'm still the same person. I'm just experiencing dementia, not I am dementia.
Yeah, and when I it's interesting, because when I look at you, like, I don't know, dementia is sometimes one of the last things I think of when I look at you. I see you as like a loving mother, a loving wife, an outstanding employee at LiveWell, you know, like a volunteer in the community, and a softball coach. I mean, I don't know, dementia is like one of the last things I think of, and sometimes I'm not even sure that it's even on my list when I think about sort of who you are. You know, it's not, I don't think like Betsy dementia. Like I said, I think of Betsy, mother, wife, like, and all of the things that make you who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think about either. Right? I think about, we were just having a conversation prior to the show. You're talking about, you know, flying planes and working on planes, and then jumping out of planes. I don't know, but I think about that. I'm so fascinated by, you know, some of your experiences that, you know, talk about. You're smart. You're brilliant.
Yes.
You talk about getting into the Navy and being able to, I mean, the Air Force, and being able to not, you can just get in. They said, no, you come on in and you can choose what you want to do.
Right.
You tell us what you want to do. You know, that means you're brilliant, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just to be able to fly a plane, that's something I'll never be able to do. Now, what types of plane did you fly?
I worked on the C-130s, the H model.
C-130.
Yeah. It's a heavy cargo plane. Yeah. So aerial sprays and paratroops, aeromeds. So anytime we needed to do like troop movements or like the wildfires, my last tour was Hurricane Katrina. So we did a lot of troop movements and supply movements, and helping with fires and traveling overseas. Anywhere my plane went, I went with it.
Well, I always wanted to fly in a F-15 or F-18, one of the F planes.
Yeah.
I don't want to fly right now because there's too much going on. But I always wanted to fly in one of them. I think those are so cool.
So can I recommend, if you ever get the chance to do that, do the F-22 Raptor.
F-22, they done came up, huh?
They're out in Arizona. Go
Yeah.
get one of those. Yeah.
Do they have anything where they take civilians on flights?
That I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
To be able to fly with those, I think they're so cool. That's too. But and what was it like for you the first time you actually flew in a plane?
So we're only allowed to do it if like the pilot or co-pilot were with us, while the whichever one needed to go to the bathroom or to the galley or whatever they needed to do. So it was really cool just to sit there and every once in a while you have to make an adjustment, but there's like buttons on everything that's all around you. So it was interesting to need to learn all of those and to know what each one does, know which engine each one is attached to, and all of that stuff. But we also had hydraulic and pneumatic systems on the plane, so I had to learn both sets, for the landing gear, for the wings, for the ailerons, for just everything. So it was a really rewarding and great experience to be a part of it.
Now, did they make you jump out of the plane before you learned to fly it, or did you jump out after you learned to fly it?
After.
That's so funny.
I always wanted to skydive.
Yeah, highly recommend.
It's not too late.
It's never
Bridget.
too late.
Not too
My wife
late.
will go with you. She's ready to do it again.
Wow, that's what I wanted.
She's done it too.
She has, yeah. She's done it commercially. She went up in a Cessna and did a tandem jump and came out. Yeah.
See, my thing is landing. Like how they.
Well, if you do tandem, they land for you.
Oh, okay. So
So
I
you're
could do that.
just on the front. They'll tell you to put your feet up, and then they land, and then you can put your feet down. Yeah.
I'll be waiting for you on the ground.
You and me both. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for you. My feet planted right on the ground.
Wow, I can't I'm blown away. Like this, the flying the plane, everything that's going on, what you experience, how you're handling it, how you managing this whole experience. I am amazed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Some days are better than others. There are days that I break down and I cry a lot and I'm truly upset and it does weigh on me. But then there are other days, and especially more since I've been working, there are more days now where I feel fulfilled and enriched and blessed, and I'm not looking at all of the negative that's coming with it. It's mostly about the blessings that are following, even in those moments of struggle. And I say moments because it's not a whole day, it's not my whole life, it's not the rest of my life, it's just that moment I might be struggling. But I feel like that could be anybody. Every day somebody wakes up and maybe they're having a bad day, or they say you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Everybody has moments like that. So I can't define that as, oh well, that's because of my dementia. No, I'm just experiencing a bad moment, and in a few minutes something's going to come along and I'm going to find something that makes me feel better. And I always look for those moments of gratitude and those moments of mindfulness, and try to incorporate that into my life. So even when I am having that struggle in that moment, I can close my eyes and be like, you know what, my kids said this to me yesterday, that really touched me, let's remember this. And I try to hold those moments. Or when I do get to class and I'm like, I'm late and I'm worried and I'm struggling and I'm going, and then one of my people that sit right in the front row are looking at me and they're like, we're so happy you're here. And I'm like, you know what, I am so happy to be here too. And all of a sudden whatever I was experiencing has melted away, and I'm just so, I don't know, blessed to be there. So it's amazing the connection that we've formed, and it is that connection that really really helps pull through those tough moments.
Now, Erica, over at LiveWell, you guys have built something that's remarkable. You are able to take or handle or serve a person from the very onset of the diagnosis all the way through, right?
Yeah, so we have several individuals who reside with us. We have assisted living communities as well as skilled nursing communities. Sometimes we will have couples move in where one of the individuals has a diagnosis of cognitive change and the other does not. So we do have some people living with us who do not have cognitive change as an opportunity to support their loved one. But yeah, we have a residential community, but we also have a really robust suite of community services because I mean, if you ask a lot of people, most people will say, I want to stay in my home as long as possible. And we try to support people in their home so that they can maintain or their wish to stay at home for as long as possible. So we have occupational therapy services in the home. We have support groups. We have we have, like I said, we have speech pathologists who will work with people, physical therapists who will work with people. So we want to help you to meet you where you're at. And it's not about bringing everybody to us because at the end of the day, we don't have the space to serve all the people, but it's about helping you to live life as long as you can in your home. And if you're not able to live at home, then we'll also help support you in that way as well.
I think LiveWell is one of the only communities that has sort of a hybrid model that way, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it? Because I don't know of any. Most other places I'm aware of, they have communities, and now in their community, they have a memory care unit. But going out to the home and servicing in the home, and then having the campus where you have you guys have a lot of programs.
Yeah, we do. We have a something that's called the Resilient Living Center, where people can come from the community to take classes, and I would say it's the antithesis of a day center because one of the things that makes us unique is the incredible autonomy and the amount of choices. I think it's far more like a college campus than it is your typical adult day center. So we have a catalog, and you can flip through the catalog, and there's 65 different courses that you can choose from to take, and you can kind of plan your own adventure for the day. And from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, you have 4 different choices. So it really is, and it's a space of learning and growth. It's not a place you come to because you just want to spend your day or somebody drops you off and we're just keeping you busy. Right. No, it is a place where, I think you use the words, it is a place that was designed with intention, and it is a place you come to experience meaning and purpose.
Yes. You said 65 programs.
We have 65 programs, and that is actually a combination of in-person programs and virtual programs. Most of our programs are in person, but we also serve people from all over the state as well as outside of the state of Connecticut who will take some virtual classes with us.
Wow. Now, when I remember last time we were there, I don't think you had 65.
No, we did. We have grown. We have grown.
I have to get back over there.
You do have to get back over there.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful campus.
We might have to get you and Bridget into a drum circle. We might have. Yeah, you can take Betsy's exercise class. You can take a drum circle, a glee club, an art class.
Actual drums?
Actual drums, rhythm and hues. I mean, you name it. If you've got an interest in art or fitness or music, yeah.
Pottery.
Oh yeah, pottery.
What you trying to say, Betsy?
Oh, I'm trying to say we're going to have a great time. We laugh so much in my class. It's awesome. Oh, yes.
Sounds like fun because I'm paying for Planet Fitness. I might as well come over there.
It's a nice seated fitness class. We're not standing up or anything. We do a lot of fun movements. I incorporate a lot of jokes and kind of like wisecracks into it. And a lot of the people in my little group will wisecrack back at me. And so we have a really great back and forth. I think you'd love it. It'd be a lot of fun. I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 11.
My workout clothes when I come visit over there.
And bring your workout clothes and bring your appetite because we've got a cafe there called the Gathering Place. Okay. Yes, so you maybe you should work out before you eat.
You could work out, hit the hydro massage bed, and then grab something to eat.
You guys got a hydro massage bed?
We've got 2 of them. Yes, 2 hydrotherapy massage beds. Yes.
How much does it cost to use your gym?
Actually, I think,
don't
well,
know.
there's different membership plans. But let me just tell you, you come, we'll get you on those massage beds.
Ooh! And you already promised this lunch, and I'm going to order the lobster.
Okay, listen, you're coming for an exercise class, you're coming for lunch, you're getting on those massage beds. You may come and never leave.
Right?
You might move in.
Wow, that sounds like a fun day.
Get you an appointment for the brain health and dementia prevention clinic.
That's right.
Spend the whole day.
That's right. And a pedicure?
Actually, we do have a spa. We do have a spa. But I have to go back. I know they do nails. But I think they primarily do nails for people who are living there.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. We might be able to arrange something.
I didn't know you guys had a spa too.
Oh, yeah. We have a spa. Yes, we do.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is. And you can come and people, you don't have to live there. You can come and come there for day programs, right?
Correct. For our it's called the Resilient Living Center, and you can come like a la carte. You can come for one program, or you can come for full day. So an example of one program that we have is something called Cat's Got Your Tongue, and that's led by a speech pathologist. It's once a week for 10 weeks, and she's going to help people who are struggling with word finding problems to be able to access language. So that's an example of a class that you can take one time a week for a short period of time, or we have classes that you can take 3 days a week. And some people come and spend full days with us. Wow. So it's really a pick your own adventure kind of experience. Yes.
And all kinds of classes.
Tongue. Cat's got your tongue. Yes.
Wow. This is amazing. I am so
Bless. Yeah.
I am blessed. I want to make sure that I can't find the right words to describe how this is what this has done for me. Your presence, your experience, you sharing your story. And it's I guess I can say it's a blessing for sure. And I'm very happy that you came and shared with us. And we're gonna actually have to do more of this. And Erica, every time you come, you bring she meets the most amazing people. So last time we were here, we had Marianne.
Yeah. I love Marianne.
She was such a beautiful person.
She knocked our socks off too. Yes.
She's so wonderful.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Everyone that you've brought with you has just been amazing. And, it's a testament to what you guys are doing over at LiveWell.
Yes.
It is a true testament. And we are going to come in there and we're going to go. How long is the program you're going to put us through?
Which program?
The one you just mentioned, the prevention.
Oh, that is about 2 hours. The Brain Health and Dementia Prevention Clinic.
Yes.
About 2 hours.
One session?
There will be a few sessions after that as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, wait, good. I look forward to that. That's going to be, I'm going to actually go and attend that.
And can I tell people what number to call if you want to book a speaking engagement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tell them anything
You
want
get
to
on
hear.
the phone with Erica and you call 860-681-4781, and I'll say it again because I said it pretty fast. 860-681-4781, and we will get a speaker to you if you have a place that would invite us into your space, whether you are a bank, a church, a book club, any kind of gathering where you might be able to have some people that we can get in front of. We will come to you.
Absolutely. And that information will also be down in the description below. So you'll be able to go down there and if you're on your phone, it'll be a live link. You can just click it and it will take you right to Erica and you get booked that speaking engagement. And we need to get this information out.
And I would say, I just want to end this also by saying that, you said that we were a gift to you. I just want to share what a gift you are to us. What a blessing you are to us, that both of you coming into my life. I mean, you are both in my life for a reason, as is Betsy, and this is really only the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm speechless now.
And thank you for inviting me to be here as well. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful. I love being able to share my story and hope that I can help end the stigma that surrounds it. And so I love that you guys are also on this path, and thank you so much for having me.
And I will accept your thank you if you promise to come back.
Of course.
Can she bring her daughter Lily?
Bring your daughter.
Absolutely.
And she could talk about how important it is at a young age to be paying attention to her own brain health.
Absolutely.
They've both seen Human Forever and had some things to say about that. So like there's they know plenty of things.
It'd be so fascinating to learn from a 10-year-old, why is brain health important to you, and why do you want to spread the message to other youth about brain health, and why do you want to be a neuroscientist?
Yeah.
You know, why like what has shaped that? So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would also even say your significant other,
Yeah.
because that is an experience that needs to be shared as well.
Absolutely.
Because there are so many people who are living with cognitive change, and we've spoken to the people who are living with the change, but what about the people who are going through the experience with it?
Yeah, so I will say that on our speakers bureau we have 17 perspectives, and soon to be more, because we're going to train about 4 others. And our speakers bureau is comprised of people who are living with dementia as well as care partners. And there's this one, I just heard her story the other day. It's beautiful. After her spouse was diagnosed with dementia, she wrote a poem to dementia, which was essentially like, I hate you, why do you exist? Alzheimer's and dementia. And she just recently rewrote a poem to dementia, and it's like, you are a gift in my life, and thank you for everything you have taught me. And so her perspective as a care partner is also one that needs to be shared. Yeah. So, you know, we're able to share, you know, as a speakers bureau, and when we do speaking engagements, we often like to share multiple perspectives. So we'll often have a person living with cognitive change and a care partner who's sharing their perspectives.
Absolutely. So when you're going to bring them?
Whenever we get invited back.
Well, you have an open invitation. The only one with an open invitation too. You are special.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone who's joined us for this episode of Aging Wealthily. We drop every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Make sure that you tune in. If you got any value from this episode, if you enjoyed any part of it, please like the video, subscribe to our channel so you know when the next episode comes out. We're constantly producing content and giving content and adding value to the lives of people, giving them tools and resources to be able to age with intention, age with purpose, age with joy and vitality, so that they can age wealthily. I'm Sean.
And I'm Betsy.
And I'm Erica.
And we are signing off for today. Bye for now. I've sat with people at the end of their story, held space for the regret in their eyes, listened to the silence of things left unsaid, plans left unmade, lives half lived, because somebody, somewhere, had convinced them that it was too late. That stays with you. And I made a promise, not just to them, but to myself, to Bridget, to every person who finds this podcast at 2 a.m. wondering if there's still time. And there is. You're not too old. You're not too broken. You're not too far behind. You're exactly where you need to be right now to build something beautiful with whatever comes next. But here's what I need you to do. Don't just listen and move on. That's the old way. That's what got Miss Dorothy to 78 with an empty bank account and a broken heart. Subscribe right now, not later, right now. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Search Aging Wealthily. Send this episode to one person in your life who needs it. One person, that's all. Because the life you want doesn't build itself. And neither does this community. We don't just grow older here. We grow richer in every way that matters.